All right, I think we're live. Second time live. Cheese finger. I should talk about this. My husband said I should talk about this. I'm not trying to flip anybody off. You know those cheese cutters? Ost cutters is what they call them in Sweden. They're very benign, very gentle. However, if your finger gets in the way, it will slice you. And this has been like this for 2 weeks. So Uh, I'm great at tech, bad at cutting cheese, though I learned. And the key is to put the cheese down. Don't don't grate it upright. So there's a little takeaway. Even the smartest people can be dumb with cheese. So here you are today, not for cheese, but for staying safe and protecting your privacy online. So I want to dive in first with a little story from a client this week. So, a client of mine who I love dearly came to me and said, "Oh, Tanya, I bought something on Facebook last night. It was a mosquito net. And something popped up on my computer screen that was like, oh, you've been hacked or something like this. What's going on there?" I said, first of all, what time? And she said, well, it's like late at night, maybe last night, the night before. We looked through her history, nothing was there. And I said, what did you use to pay for this supposed mosquito net? And she said, PayPal. And we opened her PayPal and we went into reoccurring payments, which I'll show you in just a second. And we saw that she had multiple reoccurring payments from random vendors and sellers, a lot of them Chinese, a lot of them unrecognizable, or a lot of them like for random things like Dr. Clean and silly things like oven cleaning and say buy one get one freeze that you just get hooked into, especially because she has ADHD. It's one of those things where she just gets the dopamine hit, from acting now, acting on a sale and a deal. And so I said to her, we kind of made a rule. I was like, okay, I think probably a good rule is no more late night buying. And then also a good rule is no more buying from Facebook and Instagram. Just don't do it. And the reason for it is because the ads are not vetted. Anyone can run an ad. Anyone. I could run an ad tomorrow for something that I'm supposedly selling for a new car, for a Lamborghini. I don't own a Lamborghini. And it could be a giveaway or something. And the whole idea is that they're trying to grab information from you, whether that be your email address, your phone number, certainly your credit card information. So it's super smart that she gave them her PayPal instead of her raw credit card information. But usually what happens is you purchase something and they never deliver it to you, or they deliver you something that's sort of second rate. So, good rule, folks. Don't buy off those Instagram and Facebook ads. It's it's always too good to be true. And you know what? It's kind of sad because there are a lot of really good small businesses out there that do run ads that are legit. And so one thing you could do is you could just Google the name or whatever search engine you use. You could search the product name. And then if there's a lot of marketing behind it, there's reviews, there's lots of, people take your time to do your research. You could also plug the name into Claude, or if you use ChatGPT, it's okay. And do a search and say, like, is this a scam? Because a lot of times the AI can run a search and figure out if it's a ghost shop, for example, meaning it's not a real shop. They just put up an online shop and then they just never send you the product. So there are ways we can do our research and find out trust signals, reviews from people, other search results coming up, talking about the product and saying nice things about the product. The other thing you could do is in Instagram and Facebook, type in the search the name of the product. And I bet you if it's a scam, you would actually find people talking about how it's a scam and not to buy from them. So there you go, folks. Also, save your money. Save your money for something good. And this is a good vote for going in stores, right? Or going to trusted brands for the things that we need, like a mosquito net. Okay, so here we are today. That's story time. I always like to lead with a story about a scam or something related to the topic of today, which today it's privacy and staying safe online. So that's our story. Next, we want to talk about from that point, let's say you have put your email address and phone number, like we all have, into one of these sites. You're concerned about your information being leaked. You're concerned about what they're going to do with the information. So I want you to take a breath and pause. All of our information is out there. It just is. If you've ever signed up for anything ever, your information is out there. Your email is out there, your phone number is out there, your address, probably your social security number, your name, your age. All of that is a part of our online profile, right? Part of our online digital footprint is the way it's being talked about now. And this is in no way an ad for this company because I'm not affiliated with them yet. But I've tried their product and it's called Incogni. And I'm going to show you their product and I'm going to show you how it works. So let's switch screens real quick. There we go. So the name is Incogni. And here's their website. You can see a bunch of great like reviews for them down here. Surfshark is another competitor. I've never tried Surfshark. I like Incogni because I just think they do a good job. So before we dive into Incogni, I want you to take a beat and just Google yourself. This is the public information about me. And if you do a Google search for yourself, or even if you did a DuckDuckGo search for yourself, any search engine would pull information on you. And this is the public information on you and your name. You may want to put in, if you have like a common name, you may want to put in a name. And oh, this is great. A Facebook post from, geez, when I was in college, I need to delete that. Anyhow, um, if you have, my name is particularly unique and, country singer and a Polish last name, and you can't get that combination. And but if you have a name like John Smith, maybe you want to put like something more specific. I guess in a way, if you had a non-unique name like John Smith, that's kind of a way to be private in a funny way. But you could add little tags onto it like your age, your city, things like that, and see what comes up. See the kinds of things that come up. So for me, because I've been using Incogni to remove my data, this is what Incogni does. It removes data, your personal identity, like I was talking about, from online data brokers. So imagine the all of these websites have your data. LinkedIn has my email, has my name, has my phone number, right? And from there, if they had a breach, that information could be leaked onto the dark web and then bought and sold and bought and sold. But there all are also legitimate data brokers like LinkedIn could sell your information to a data broker and then they sell them to another website and so on. So what I want you to do is actually blow past these main results and go to like the last page for your name. So I don't know. I guess I'm seeing a sort of weird mix of, oh, there's a webinar I did a long time ago. I'm seeing sort of a weird mix. Okay, actually I went to page 10, but now there's more pages, 14. So I'm seeing a weird mix of my name, my first name, and then my last name, but not actually my complete name. And that's fine. That'll happen. I want to find one of these data brokers. What you'll start to see is like people's classmates, people's list, funky names. You're like, huh, this isn't a legitimate website I've ever heard of. That's a data broker. And so by getting signed up with something like Incogni, what will happen is it will slowly try to remove your names on your behalf. They'll submit removal requests on your behalf to then pull your information from data brokers. Some of these websites are legit websites. It's okay. We all show up online, you know, It's part of our, normal everyday lives. However, it's not normal to show up on sort of random, weird named websites that are not at all tied to a company or something you've submitted to. So I'm not seeing, what's great about this is I'm not seeing me come up for anything, but let's do that search for John Smith. John Smith, the Explorer. I bet you if I scroll through and I go to page 10, maybe I'll start to see funny things. Mhm. Okay, obituaries, how stuff works, famous explorers. So these are legitimate websites, but let's search anybody's name. I'm just going to make up a name. That's funny. I bet you if I throw a rock at any name, it'll come up. But let's look up Cynthia Bailey. I don't know who this is, but we're going to try going through her search results. She may already have a scrub. Yeah, too famous. So let's do, just making up a name of a person. This is obviously, most of these are going to be people in the world. Let's keep going to page 5. I'm seeing the white pages. That's a legitimate source. However, white pages has kind of become its own data broker. I bet you're going through and seeing a lot of search results for yourself, and that's the important thing. This doesn't matter as much, but I'd love to be able to show you a real-time example, but I think it makes more sense that you see things where you're showing up on random websites, and Incogni is super easy to set up. They do offer a 30-day money back guarantee. So if you're not something that you're not benefiting from, you can always cancel it. But the idea is that um, they scan. So you put in your information. They don't ask for your social, they just ask for your name, your email addresses. So it's important to give them multiple email addresses, all the ones that you actively use or have used in the past and want to scrub your information, your phone number, your address, and then they just go through and they start submitting on your behalf. So, and they give you a breakdown here of what was sent, what requests that were sent that are in progress and completed. And slowly over time, what you will see is that your search results, which anybody can use to build a profile on you and target you for scams and hacks. That's why this is important. Anybody can do it. Incogni reduces that significantly. And so you'll also see a reduction in email spam. You'll see a reduction in text spam. You'll see a reduction in um, call spam, or if at the very least, you'll see less targeted spam coming your way, where it's just sort of like they've cast a wide net and it's less likely that you're going to fall for something that's super convincing because they've built a scam using your online profile information and targeting you. And so Incogni is just fantastic for online privacy, and it doesn't take you very much time to just set it up, do something good for yourself and your online digital footprint. So Incogni, I highly, highly recommend. And the pricing is fairly reasonable. I usually just go with the standard. You could also go with the unlimited if you want like the extra 2,000 websites that are covered there. Or if you have custom removal requests, like in those search results, if you saw something where you're like, this is very bizarre, you could submit a custom request. So let's dive into Incogni for a couple minutes and take a look. Oh, and let me reset my password. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. It's all part of being live. I also think what's great is I used Incogni many years ago. I didn't pay them consistently to continue to remove my data, and and I still have reaped the benefits. So that's really great. And they're not sending me a password reset link, which is a bummer, but that's okay. You jump into Incogni, try it out, send me questions. They take you through the process. It's very simple, and pretty straightforward. And you can give them any or as little information as you'd like. Now, beyond Googling ourselves, not buying Facebook products, using Incogni to clean out our data, like that's all really good stuff. And you could stop there, but why stop there? Privacy is a really interesting topic to me because I think a lot of people overlook some simple settings on their phone that could potentially reveal more information than you want. So, for example, when you hear people talk about, oh, they're always listening to us, right? They're always listening. I always get ads for things I talked about. I want to show you a few little tricks and places where they might actually be listening where you can prevent that. So, one simple way, I'm going to switch my camera right real quick to my phone. One simple way is to simply, and I have an iPhone. So if you have a Google phone, I'm sorry, this is not for you. However, the steps do still apply in this case, which is to get into airplane mode. So I'm swiping down from the top right and I'm going into airplane mode. What does that do? Anytime you put yourself in airplane mode, notice the Wi-Fi went off and the cellular went off, which means you have no connection to the internet, either through cell or through the Wi-Fi. So when you cut your connection, that stops anyone from accessing your phone. Scammers, ad companies, apps. You also won't receive calls as well. So my husband and I, what we've started to do is when we really want to have a conversation private, really want it private, we put ourselves into airplane mode. And then of course, don't forget to just take yourself out so you can continue to receive calls and texts and continue to gather get on the internet. And you see up at the top, it says AT&T Wi-Fi, everything's on, I'm back in business. So that's like your tip number one. Next, I want to take you into settings. So go into your settings and do this with me. Come down to privacy and security. Boom, right here. You are going to be amazed at what's in here. So privacy and security is actually the control that you give to apps. So whenever you get a little pop-up, that says, "Hey, can we have access to your contacts? Can we access your photos? Can we access your location?" That setting is happening here. And you can pull that access at any time. Let's take a look at location services, for example. In here, why would you want location services on? You'd want it on for a few different reasons. One is for the weather, right? Another is for maps, right? These are very obvious things, but there are certain things that do not need access to your location, mainly everything. You can see a lot of these things I've set to never, Some of these things I've set to when shared. A simple example like Athleta. Technically, Athleta, it's an online shop. It doesn't need access to my location, but I was looking for a store at that time near me, so I used it. Could I have gone to Google and searched for a store near me? Yes, of course. But I can pull that access at any time. I can simply just tap never, and then they never have access to my location. So what I want you to do is legitimately go through this and take the control back. You go through and say, you know what? No, I don't want uh who am I I'm pretty good about controlling this, but let's say you say Facebook. Maybe Facebook had, always on. Ooh, you want to turn that to never. What that does is just reduces tracking. So in the case of privacy, we're all about just reducing, let me say that, reducing. We're just all about reducing access. All right, let's go back. You're going to go through this a little bit later, in more detail, but I want you to follow along with me. Go to tracking, and I just want you to completely turn off, allow apps to request to track. We don't need this. You do not need them tracking your activity. Maybe there are certain specific cases where you're doing something where you need them to track your activity, and that's when you can specifically offer access to specific things. And so what I would get if I turned that on is I would start to get a list over time. But for now, for everyday people, let's just turn it off. All right, let's go back. Since we talked earlier about Facebook ads, I want to talk about a specific thing, which is in a lot of cases, I've seen these iPhone cleaner apps come on. So next, I want you to go to contacts because if you have anything in here that says iPhone cleaner or clean or professional or AI or anything like that, anything you're like, huh? I want you to remove their access to your contacts because by giving them access to your contacts, what you've done is you've given them everybody in your address book, all their emails, all their phone numbers, addresses, and so forth. And beyond that, if you keep your passwords in your contacts, you've given them those as well. So take a note. If you have given full contact access to anything mysterious, not the everyday stuff, not the normal like what you see here. I've got Gmail, maybe Instagram. I'm talking about like obscure apps and things like that. What I'd like you to do is um, remove that access. That's the first step. And then the second step is to remove the app. So how do we remove an app? If you take a note of the name and then search for whatever the name is, let's say it's clean something or other. I don't see mine, but let's just pretend in this case it's one of these, right? Let's just say it was this one up here. All you have to do is touch and hold on it and delete it. That's it. So it's very simple to resolve this problem. But I want you in the first place not to give anything access to your contacts that doesn't actually need it. So there may be specific cases that need contacts, like I have the Gmail app. Yes, I want them to have my contacts so that I can easily email my friends and family, right? But maybe something like Instagram, no, I don't need them to have all access to all my contacts. And I also just want you to see that you can revoke this access at any time. You don't have to give over the access. Okay. Do the same thing with calendar, do the same thing with files and folders, do the same thing with all of these. But the ones I want you to pay attention to are also photos because photos are just so private. And I think a lot of people think you have to give full access. Take note of what I've done here. I've done limited access. So you can actually limit the access, even something like Instagram, where I post often. I've given limited access to. And what does that mean? They don't have full access. They just have the 30 or so images that I've given them access to. And I can edit those photos at any time just by tapping on edit. And then I go to the 30 items at the bottom. And then this is sort of a random one I shouldn't have given them access to, but and then I swipe through And then I can uncheck, right? Uncheck, uncheck. And then I can hit the checkbox at the top. And now that's reduced down to 25 items. So play around with that, but I think you'll really like the control. I did. I really liked the control that I felt of only giving access to certain images. All right, let's go back. We have a few more minutes here. We're going to go down. The other one that we talked about already, microphone and camera, those are also super important to take note of. Go in there, turn off anything that doesn't need access to your camera. What needs access to your camera? And you really think logically about it. If I use something to scan QR codes like Authenticator, yes. Can I give that access back? Say you turn off camera access and oops, you actually needed to give it access. Well, all it's going to say is please go to settings and turn on camera access. There's no harm, no foul. You know, you can't get into trouble here. So like I'll turn off access on Chrome. Yeah, I can do whatever I want in here. I can revoke access and I can add it at any time. That's the beauty of all this. Same thing with microphone. Turn off anything. And again, if you see anything in this list that you don't recognize, go and delete the app. Get out of settings and go delete the app. And again, deleting the app is just a simple touch and hold. And you hit remove and then delete. All right, friends, this will make a huge impact on your privacy. It'll also make a huge impact for your mental health. It'll be so good for you. And share it with friends and share it with people who you feel may be a little too, I don't know what you want to call it, a little too lenient with their privacy. Maybe you have a friend or family member who just allow they're constantly allowing without thinking about it. They may actually be in the mindset that they have to give that permission, that they have to give it over. Or maybe they just think they have rose-colored glasses and they just think, oh, no one's going to do anything with my information. Not necessarily true. You know, it's a slow grind over time. They collect information, they target you for scams, and that's just the way that it works. So by denying by default any kind of permission, that's a much better mindset to be in. Deny, deny, deny is how I always put it. It's like just say no. No, you don't get access. And in some cases, like I said, you may deny something that you actually need, but you can always get it back later. Any kind of benign and friendly actor is always going to come back later and say, please, can I have the access? And you say, you know what? That was a mistake. Let me go and give you that permission. Always consent, always permission, and anything that gives you a scare or a sense of fear is most likely a scam, most likely trying to pull information from you, and you don't have to give it. That's the beauty of it, is you do not have to get it, give it. So I hope that this was helpful. I just want to leave you with a couple of reminders. My the whole thing here is cyber self-defense. And so I want you to have a few of my sort of golden rules and top tips. So we're gonna take a quick peek at those and then we'll sign off. So top self-defense habits. Let me actually make this smaller. I realize my head is covering it. Let's move that over. There we go. Oh, my Mac was trying to be helpful. Not today. Hold on. There we go. All right. Top self-defense habits, unique passwords. So beyond privacy, just in general, Cyber self-defense, I always talk about unique passwords. So making sure you have unique passwords for everything. Never reuse part of your password. Always unique, especially for the important stuff. Maybe not so much for Netflix, but the important stuff definitely want unique passwords. The second top self-defense habit, two-step verification. Making sure you have a second layer protection. That's when you get a code texted to you on your phone. You want to make sure you make a list of your important accounts, banks, financial, email accounts, social media accounts. These are accounts that are high targets for hackers, and you want to make sure they have two-step verification. How do you do that? You sign in, and if you get a code sent to you, which a lot of people grumble about, they're like, oh, codes, codes, codes. But that's actually them protecting you in case your password gets leaked and somebody gets a hold of your password, there's always a second layer of protection, especially if you're somebody who's not going to follow rule number one for unique passwords. Definitely follow rule number two for two-step verification. Third rule, watch your money, right? Make sure that when, at least on a weekly, if not monthly basis, you're looking at your bank statements, you're looking at your credit card statements, and you're tracking and you're seeing not only for budget reasons, right? But you're taking a look and making sure that everything that is on that statement is something that you have personally purchased. And also watch for increase in bills. Verizon, AT&T, those accounts can get hacked. People can get a hold of your checks and your bank information. They can do ACHs. So you do want to make sure that the bill is that you've had, say you pay, paid $200 a month for your phone bill, if it all of a sudden jumps to $500 a month, that's when you know that there may be some fraud on your account and you would contact your cell phone company and take care of it. I've definitely had clients that experience that before. So watch your money and your statements regularly. Last thing, run your updates, please, please, please. And I'm talking about updates. You don't have to go for the full upgrade. An update is a minor update. It's a security patch, it's a bug fix. You go into settings, you look for, do a search for updates. You can always just do your search and make sure that you're running those updates. If it says upgrade, that's when changes come. That's when it takes a little bit longer, but updates are minor. They take 20 minutes at most, and oftentimes they run on their own, but oftentimes we ignore them. And then there's a security issue, or in some cases, your phone just, or your phone or your computer just don't run as well as they could because you haven't run the update that has fixed that bug that you're bumping up against. So it's not only a great cyber self-defense tip, it's also just a ease tech ease, less tech stress tip. All right. So then after our habits, I want to talk about my golden rules, which I already kind of touched on. But my friends, deny by default. Pause before you allow anything. Ask yourself, did I ask for this? If not, deny. And then verify, verify, verify. Always, if somebody calls you from a supposed place or texts you from or emails, anyone who reaches out to you, make sure that you verify and also question, have I asked for this or not? Lastly, go to the source. So if you're always welcome to hang up, back out of a potential scam, and go to the source. If they claim to be Microsoft, go to Microsoft.com, sign in with your account, and check and see, do you actually owe money? Right? And go to your bank account and see, did I actually pay for this service or not? If you get one of those scammy, hey, you paid for this, $800 thing, they're always trying to lure you in with fear and take, and assuming that you're just going to respond to them. And if you don't respond to scams and you go to the source, 10 times out of 10, you're going to be put at ease and know that, this is just a scam. But you could also just send everything that's suspicious or questionable to junk. Worst case scenario, something's going to happen. Like, let's say, for example, the worst case scenario is like your electricity gets shut off. Well, then your electricity gets shut off, you pay the bill and it gets turned back on, or your internet gets turned off. You know what I mean? There are recourses to real companies who you owe money to, and they're always going to give you grace. They're always going to let you come back, and they're rarely ever going to lead with fear, and they're always going to give you grace. So just remember that hackers and scammers function off of fear, urgency, all that stuff in order to get you to respond. And my friends, as a reminder, Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. This says next up May 6th. My bad. This should not be May 6th, but next up is scams and phishing. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And it's always juicy. And then I do an open office. I'm doing great with these slides. Oh. Live, people. I don't know why it's going to that. There it goes. On Mondays, 4:30 Pacific, I do an open office where you can ask me anything about online security, privacy, scams, anything you want. Throw it in the mix. And then the stuff. Boom. There we go. The stuff. So my website is always open, techretaries.com/schedule. You can schedule one-on-one with me. You can schedule classes there. You can schedule a new client call and chat with me. Also, any kind of class replays and all my videos are learn.techretaries.com. You can get the whole series of cyber self-defense. And as always, my friends, be kind, be patient, and restart. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you being here. Take care of yourselves.